Welcome to Moving Conversations, a podcast for movement professionals by movement professionals. If you coach, train, or teach movement, Pilates, or fitness, then this podcast is for you. With more than 60 years of experience in fitness and Pilates, your hosts, Brian Ritchie and Nora St. John, explore the science of human movement, diving deep into the facts, myths, and common misconceptions, hoping to spark thought and conversation about how we view fitness and movement. Now, let's jump into Moving Conversations. And welcome back to Moving Conversations. I'm Brian Ritchie. Joining me as always is Nora St. John. Good morning, Nora. How you doing?
Very well, Brian. We finally have a little sunshine out here in California. I'm very happy for that. 2026 is starting out with some sun. The other day I was talking to a friend in New Brunswick, so she's in like the cold, dark Northlands. And there was sun coming through my window and I saw shadows on the wall and I was like, what is that? Where's that light coming from? And then I realized, oh, it's the sun.
We had that exact experience in New York because we got there. This was over the Christmas break. We got there and it was gray and gloomy and rainy the first day. And the second day we're walking around and it still was nothing but gray. And all of a sudden my wife pointed up, she's like, look, blue. We may actually see sun. And the sun peeked through for it was just a moment. Then it
just a
disappeared.
moment.
But it was like hope was there. So at least you've got some of that. We're actually warming up right now, which is nice. It's 55 today. It has been like, I've been waking up to 23. So today was nice. It's supposed to get warm and then cold again. So I'll take the warmth as long as it'll last.
Excellent. Excellent.
This time of year. Yeah. This time of year, you just take what you can get because
it's totally variable, right?
It's going to be totally variable. I mean, that's the thing about the new year is depending on where you live, it can be like you. It can be warm, it could be rainy, it could be anything where we are. It can be anything from sub-zero. I actually saw today that I think it was 2019 or I forget how many years ago it was. We had a gigantic blizzard this week. Yeah. And you know, when you see on Facebook and it shows you a picture of the past, well, yes. I thought it was what was coming and it said 20 inches of snow in our area. And I looked at it and my heart sank. I said, there's no way. And I went, oh, wait a minute. That was like 14 years ago, whatever it was. And I went, whew. So it can really be variable depending on, because of this time of year.
I think one of those pictures popped up in my feed because it was from my brother who lives in your neighborhood in Bethesda. And my nephew was skiing down the roof of their shed. So it was like, he's like, it looks like it went onto a balcony and then there's like, he could get over onto this roof. And then they actually had a picture of him skiing down the roof of the shed because there was so much snow. So yeah, yep. Exactly. It could be
exactly. Well, speaking of New Year, our last couple of episodes, we talked about reassessment, taking a look at where we are, what we want to accomplish this year physically, and not just, oh, I want to lose 2 pounds or whatnot, but really taking a wholesale approach to what do we want to change? What do we want to achieve in ourselves? And we're going to be doing, about once a month, we're going to be doing reassessments on this, which is fantastic. That way we can keep ourselves accountable as well as all of our listeners. But I thought today would be an interesting time to talk about what we're going to see happening at the gym. All these newbies coming in from out of the cold, literally where I am, and coming in and starting fresh, which good for them. I'm in the fitness business. I want people to be coming in. It frustrates the heck out of me when I'm trying to get on the equipment. However, I also know that they're going to be leaving in about 6 weeks, unfortunately, and then it'll be back to the normal people. But something that dawned on me is, when do we start seeing a lot of people come into our facility is in February. And the reason is we specialize in rehabilitation. Well, people get injured at the gym. So I thought, let's talk about getting back into the swing of things and how to do it safely, what we should expect from our bodies and, how we can truly build back up safely and effectively so that we don't burn out for one, but we also don't get injured.
Exactly. And I think Pilates studios are always a little bit different. Like we never had, again, because I was running a private studio, primarily not a class studio, which I'm sure is quite different. We never really had a big January rush, but to your point, we definitely had a February, March, early spring rush for a lot of the same reasons. And some of it was because people had gotten a little enthusiastic over the in the January fame and shown up at the studio going, oh, my knee hurts or my ankle hurts or whatever. But also because people just hadn't kind of gotten back into their swing. And
Mhm.
a lot of times, and I think this is true for a lot of the people that I know, and I'm talking to several of them recently have been said this to me. Well, it's the new year. I'm starting my thing, my 6-week program, whatever it is, whether it's a
Mhm.
body weight program or whether it's a gym program or whether it's a diet program. Like I'm starting my 6 weeks, and that's just so typical right now,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That and yeah, that's all great. Like it's great to set a goal, to do something, to commit to something. But a couple things to think about. One is just, is that realistic for you? And understanding that, and that can take a little while to figure out. And the other thing I want to kind of bring up with this is adaptability, like understanding
Mhm.
that sometimes you go in with the best of intentions and you've got your program and you're doing the 8 things you're supposed to do, and then you hurt something.
Mhm.
And for many people, that's like, okay, and I'm done. And then you don't see them again until January. So just working through some of those concepts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we've all been in that situation where we do go to the gym January 5th or 6th, and I'm looking at the calendar right now. So this weekend is going to be a busy weekend at the gym that, my family
Yeah.
and I go to. And I've told you we're staying away. I won't go
Yep.
in on Saturday or Sunday because I know they're going to be jam packed, all the newbies, and people will forget about gym etiquette. People who don't know it, don't understand it, and it becomes very frustrating for those of us who are regulars. I remember when I did group exercise, was teaching it. Everybody has their place in the room. All of your
I was just
regulars,
thinking that.
yeah,
Exactly.
have their place. This is my place.
Right.
And they can show up 10 minutes late. Everybody will relinquish that space, or it'll just stay empty until they show up. Everyone has their place. But this time of year, someone comes and takes that spot, and the person comes in, and you can just see the fury in their face. That's my spot. How dare they take my spot from me? Or the class is full and they
Yeah.
can't even get in. I was like,
Yeah.
but I've been here every single week for the past 2 years, and I can't believe that you
Exactly.
wouldn't let me in. It's going to happen. And we have to go into the gym. And I told you, I'm only going to go in the afternoon during the week for a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks, when I know it's going to be a little less crowded and that I'll be able to do whatever I want. Luckily, I own a fitness facility, so I can just come in extra early in the morning or stay a little late and do my thing here. But not everybody has that luxury, obviously. But yeah, that frustration can really take its toll on people.
And from the Pilates studio side, like that would happen with Pilates classes, right?
Oh,
That you have Alice, who's been coming to Tuesday, Thursday morning at 10 o'clock since the beginning of time,
yep.
right? And she always has the second reformer from the right. Like that's
That's
Alice's
her
spot.
reformer.
And
Yes.
everybody knows that, right? Most people just, that's Alice's spot. But then January 1st comes, or January 5th, or whatever it is. And, Georgia shows up, who, of course, is in the level 3 reformer class, even though she's never been on a reformer, but she thinks she's really fit. So she'll figure it out, right? And she just lays down on Alice's reformer. And that all that stuff is just so it is part of the beginning of the year.
It is 100%. 100%. The other thing that we see, at least in the fitness world, is the fact that these people are starting from nothing. They have
Yeah.
not moved off their butt for a long time, and they probably have sat on their butt for the last few weeks, eating garbage, doing very little, and now they're going to exercise. So they join a club, they join a fitness facility, they join wherever. And what do they get? They get a few free sessions with a personal trainer. Now, there are some trainers out there who are phenomenal. I know some that would blow the socks off of you. I also know that a lot of times the people might get to the least common denominator of this industry.
Well, they
Someone
might
who,
they might get the available one,
yeah,
or
someone
they
who
might get
does
the
it
new trainer who doesn't have a big book of clients yet. I mean, that's typically what you're going to
exactly,
get, right? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you're going to get the person who has time on their schedule, who's usually very new, very green,
Right. Yep.
often young. Nothing against young. However, I, me myself, I learned as I got older that, you know what? My body doesn't respond the same at 30 that it did at 20. And it sure didn't at 40. And now that I'm in my 50s, it's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So I have a lot more respect for the human body of an older client than I ever did when I was in my 20s. So I see a lot of times someone takes someone who's mature, let's say, and hasn't exercised and are doing exercises that are, let's say, not feasible for them. They can't even do it right. They're doing deadlifts, they're doing squats, they're doing all of these things because I hate to say this, but a lot of trainers feel like I want them to be very sore after our first workout. So they're going to know they had a great workout and they're going to want to keep coming to me. I've heard that. I've heard those words before. And
And I think, yeah. And I
yeah.
mean, I think about this from a Pilates studio perspective because it's a little bit different, right? But it can have some of the same elements. I mean, the example I
Yeah.
used before is somebody decides, oh, I want to start Pilates, but I've been a runner for the last 20 years. I'm really fit. I'm going to start at level 3. So then you've in those classes, if it's a group class situation, right? You've got a situation where you have a whole bunch of people coming forever. And
Mhm.
if you who know Pilates out there, it's kind of complicated. You kind of have to know a little something to really do it with proficiency and even with safety. And then
Mhm.
you've got a room full of people that know what they're doing, and you've got two total newbies who think that they know everything,
Yep.
right? But who don't know where the springs are, don't know where the foot bar is supposed to be, all that. So everybody gets affected by that too. Different version of the same problem. And you may or may not have an instructor who's experienced with dealing with those situations, right? Because every time you've got multi-levels, all of you who are instructors know that out there.
Mhm.
It always means you've got to work a little harder to kind of make everybody happy. Because either you can bring everything down to that beginner level, which will frustrate your regulars, or you can keep it at the regular level and lose your beginners. And it's always
Mhm.
that balance is always tough. And this time
I
of
was
year,
gonna
it's
say,
very tough.
that's the challenge. That is the challenge because if you teach to the lowest of the group, then everybody else gets frustrated. They don't feel like they've had a workout. They are not challenged. But if you teach
Right.
over their head, the new people's heads, they're going to be totally lost. They're going to feel like they don't belong. They're not going to feel welcome or wanted. And they're going to best case scenario, they don't come back. Worst case scenario, they badmouth the instructor because, the instructor must have been terrible because, they couldn't, appeal to me and do what
Right.
I needed.
They didn't pay any attention to me. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And let's face it, if you need a one-on-one, in Pilates land, I have told so many people, do yourself a favor before you join a reformer class, have a series of one-on-ones on the reformer to understand the basics. I think that can be crucial to understand the springs, to understand positioning, to understand some of the basic exercises, because let's face it, we all know what footwork is. But to a newbie, they're going to say, what? Huh? Foot, feet? What? You mean I
Right.
got to take off my
Right.
shoes? What do you mean I have to take off my shoes? It's that sort of thing that you shouldn't be in a level 3 class, but it happens.
Or, what I always suggest to people who are starting out with anything is start at the beginning level. Start with an
Mhm.
introductory class or a level 1 class or a, beginning yoga class, whatever it is. Because honestly, you can work. You can now, if you choose, you can work as hard as you need to in any class. And I know for myself, I take a lot of beginning level classes because I can just focus on what I need to focus on. I'm
Mhm.
not doing crazy stuff. Choreography isn't wacky. It's not going really fast, but I can really focus on exactly what I need to be doing.
Sure.
And that's a lot of times the benefit of being a beginner again. Even if you've had experience, maybe you haven't done anything for 6 months, maybe you haven't done anything for 2 years. Start back at the beginning. You can always progress quickly after that once you realize where you are and how your body's doing. But give yourself a chance to just refamiliarize yourself with what is happening in this body, how does it feel, and what works.
I was listening to an interview with a famous musician who was self-taught. And he's risen through the ranks. He is an amazing musician. But he went with his children to one of these baby piano classes, one of these very beginner piano
Mhm.
classes, was sitting there, and the instructor came out and started drawing on a whiteboard a musical note. And he actually said, this is awesome. I'm actually going to learn music. I'm going to learn music theory. I'm actually going to learn this stuff now. And he
Yeah.
was excited to. And I'm thinking, you're there with your 3 or 4-year-old, but guess what? If you don't have those basics, you're really fighting uphill for the rest
Yeah.
of your, career. I mean, you really
Yep.
are. And you're always going to be, oh man, I really should have taken that beginner class. Take one or two. If it's too easy for you, move on and move up.
This is where imposter syndrome sets in. Right, it really does, and one of the things that I find is makes people the most successful at working out regularly is confidence,
Yeah,
right? Feeling confident, they know what they're doing, they know
absolutely.
what they're supposed to be doing, it's not confusing, they've got a clear plan, like, that's when people are successful, you
Absolutely.
know? If you're like, "Oh, I don't really know what I'm doing, and this is really hard," and like, that insecurity does not make for a successful experience.
No, no. And unfortunately, we see a lot of the reverse of imposter syndrome, where people
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
way more
exactly.
confident than they ever deserve to.
Right.
There is a point in
Yes.
life where you fake it till you make it. I get it.
Yes. We've all
I've
done it.
been guilty of that many times in my life. And sometimes it works out and sometimes you fall flat on your face. However,
Mhm.
in a situation like this, asking too much of your body, joining a class that's beyond your skill level, or doing things that are way beyond where you are physically today, like trying to deadlift, like trying to do, something that you did when you were in your 20s. Okay, I'm going to talk from the male perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
We we have something I'm not sure if you've heard of called ego. Now, some people's egos can't fit in this room.
Yes.
And that's unfortunately what a lot of men who join a gym after taking off for the last 20 years, they remember that they used to bench press 200 pounds. They used to deadlift so such and such. And they remember all of those old weights from football days or college days or
Oh
when
my
they were in
god.
great shape. And I can't tell you how many people who have come to me and I put, baby weights on the bars sort of thing. And I'm putting, the leg press and I'm putting, 50, 60 pounds on there. And they're looking at me like, come on. I'm like, no,
Dude.
no. And what I tell everybody is you have to earn the right to go up to the next level. And when I
Yeah.
say that, they look at me because I'm a big believer in foundation. We're going to talk about building a foundation in a little bit. But you build up a foundation first and then you build upon it. So if you give them
Yes.
too much too soon, I was literally talking to a client about that today. She's almost 80 years old. She weighs 90 pounds. She's the tiniest little thing. I mean, I could blow her over, with a whisper. She's tiny. And she was asking me, when can we start doing the harder exercises? When can we start doing the advanced stuff? This is her third session. And I literally had to say, everybody everybody has their own pace. Everyone's skill level is different. But when you earn the right to, then we will absolutely progress you to that next level. And some of the things that we are doing today, I pushed her this much. And she goes, oh, that was so hard.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Right.
okay, exactly. So you have to really be able to listen to their body. But again, if I took a guy who used to be a big time football player, in college or in high school or whatnot, and thinks that they're coming in with all of this ego as they do coming into the gym, and here's this 20 something year old who they're already going to feel a little intimidated by, they're going to have that reverse imposter syndrome and try and, I can do it. Go ahead, put some more on. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And they're going to
Exactly.
go too much, too soon, too fast, and they're going to get injured. And we really need to take our own egos down. I told you, having a 18-year-old and having a 15-year-old is a challenge sometimes with my ego. Because I'll go to the gym and I can still lift the weights that they are and I can lift a higher amount of repetitions. But when they want to push the weights up, I'm like, I don't want to. I'm happy
Mhm.
with this. I want you to get
I don't need
stronger,
to
but I
right
don't
now.
know about this. No, I'm I'm
I
I'm
I
I'm perfectly happy.
I'm not in the growing part of the curve. I'm in the maintaining part of the curve. Yeah,
Exactly,
absolutely.
exactly.
Absolutely.
But we have to remind ourselves when we're working with our clients. And sometimes we have to remind our clients that when they start out, that, you know what, maybe we start off a little easier. Get some momentum going first. Start off with things that we know you can do, that you are comfortable with, and work from there.
And one of the things like, we're kind of taking the male, female, and then the Pilates, the Pilates personal training
Mhm.
approach a lot on this, which is great. In the Pilates studio, the more likely thing that so more the way that challenge shows up is teachers thinking the client is bored and giving them things that are way beyond
Oh,
their skill level. Again,
yes.
it's not going to be weights necessarily. It's not going to be, changing the resistance necessarily, unless making it much lighter, which sometimes is harder. It's more giving them something they physically, biomechanically do not have the ability to do.
Yeah.
Giving them something that involves a lot of lumbar extension when they have none, or involves really good gluteal strength when there's just nothing there, or
Mhm.
good leg alignment when, you put them in something like step ups on the chair or lunges on the chair, and their knee just collapses, does the whole valgus collapse because they don't have the alignment, the awareness, etc., to do it in the way they're supposed to do it.
Yep.
And so that's often a little more. But what we're into again is clients who just I want more, or more really instructors who think, oh my gosh, these guys are going to be bored. I've got to give them super advanced stuff today because they're a marathon runner. Fine, that does not mean they know how to do the 100 or they know how to
No.
do footwork even. So it's always like looking at that and to your point, building the foundation. Understand what skills this client needs for whatever their life is and whatever their goals are, and then just start at the beginning with
Mhm.
whatever those skills are and assess them and understand them, and then slowly build on that. And again,
Yeah.
maybe you're quickly building on it. I think of some clients who came in and I gave them a pretty basic assessment. It's like, oh, you're going on, like you've got this,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
they immediately go 3 or 4 steps up because they've got it. Other ones, it's like, okay, we're going down. Like we're going to pre
A
Pilates, and
lot.
now we're going to breathing, and we're going to like figuring out where your pelvis is because that's not happening.
Mhm. I will often, especially for the men who come to me, who need a reality check, I will
Yeah.
often challenge them with a couple of different things. One, the simplest exercises, but number two, slowing them down.
Yeah. Yep.
Half
That's
that
always a good
speed.
one.
Now
Yep.
half that speed. And then you can see after 2 repetitions, things are shaking. And they're like, why is that shaking so much? I said, because you're working a lot more of the stabilizing muscles. Now some of the deeper muscles are finally firing. You're not overcompensating. This
Yep.
is what I want. And you could see their eyes. You could see the recognition of, oh, this is more than I anticipated. And for some people,
Yes.
that's not what they want. They're like, I just want to lift heavy things up and put them down again. Like,
Right.
that's fine. You got to go somewhere else. But for us to
Yeah.
get you there, guess what? Here's where we have to start.
Yes, and I think about I'd be curious what exercise you use for this, because one of the things that I find a lot is whether I'm working with a man or I'm working with like a really athletic woman or somebody who's got a lot of physical confidence because of whatever they've done in the
Mm-hmm.
past. But they come into the Pilates studio and everything's new, and they're like they don't they're not going to be happy lying on their back and breathing. Like
Yep.
that will send them out the door faster than anything. So it's like, okay, my thought is always, what can I give them that lets them know I can challenge them, like something
Mm-hmm.
that is hard in the sense of physically working but safe,
Mm-hmm.
right? So honestly, a lot of times you might start with long stretch, which is just plank.
Mm-hmm.
Plank,
Exactly.
moving plank. So hands on the foot bar, feet on the shoulder rests. I set the weight up to give them an appropriate amount of support, not too much
Mm-hmm.
support, but not too little either. And then just have them do long stretch. And
Mm-hmm.
again, have them do it slow, just like you said. And it's like after about 5 or 6 reps of going slow and really feeling like, oh my God, their core is shaking, their shoulders are working. And what I call it, because I'm a girl and I grew up with a lot of brothers, I call it alpha-ing my clients.
Yep.
Right? Because especially if they're more athletic or if they're men, I kind of have to show them that I can kick their butt or at least make them work hard before they'll calm down enough to listen to me.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll do things like that. A lot of times, if a lot of times they've come to me because they've had back pain in the past or something like that or whatever.
Right.
So they're
Right.
familiar with certain exercises.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of times I will build onto those exercises. And a great one is like dead bug,
Yeah.
because they say, I've done this before. Fantastic. Okay, well, we're going to slow it down. And now I'm going to put a big ball or a togu ball, a mid-sized ball between your hands and your knees. Now I want you to press in and just hold that the whole time. Now take the other one out. Now don't let that ball move. And they're pushing in, and you can see I'm working choreography now as well. So
Yes,
now their
exactly.
brain is having to work overtime.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll go half that speed now. Now hold this. Now bring it back in. And I'll begin to floor them a little bit with the choreography by making it more
Yes.
challenging for their brain, not just their
Yep.
body. But what happens is eventually you can see they start shaking like crazy. Their body is suddenly, they'll say, wow, okay, this is a lot harder. And I'll say, yeah, this is sort of that next step. And sometimes, and I hate to say this, but I have out alphaed a few people by taking it away from them.
Yeah.
If I've had them, they would say, oh, yeah, I do planks all the time. Awesome. Let's do a plank on a fit ball then, big
Yeah,
Swiss
exactly.
ball.
Yep.
And they say, oh, okay. I said, it's just going to add a little bit of instability. Let's try that. And I try and get them into place, and they are shaking so hard. They're lasting less than 10 seconds. And I'll say, you know what? You're just not ready for that yet. Let's go back to the plank and work on that first. And sometimes that little ego check, and again, you have to know your client. You have to know that they can take a little bit of an ego check,
Yeah.
and sometimes they need it. And just say, you know what? Let's try it here. Let's gradually get back to here. And I can say, you know what? I challenge you a little more than what you're ready for today. Give me 2 weeks. We'll get you here. So that they think, oh, okay. And they look forward to something. But they know,
Nice.
wow, yeah, he can kick my butt. And again, I kept them safe. I'm not going to hurt them. But now when I take them into a plank, I can get them in proper position,
Yep.
hold it, and then I might have
Yep.
them move one limb. I might have them toe tap, bring a knee in, whatever I'm going to have them do. Now they're like,
Exactly.
wow, this is a lot more challenging than I thought. I'll say, exactly. I said, there are, I tell people this all the time. There are thousands upon thousands of exercises. If one doesn't work, try something else. If that doesn't work, try something
Exactly.
else. I'm going to find
Exactly.
something that works.
Yeah.
But also I believe in that micro progression, because it's like, let's find exactly where they are, challenge the heck out of them there. So a lot of times I'll use those as kind of my way of getting them into understanding that I know what I'm doing.
What I love about that is two things. One is, one of the things that I say a lot, or I've thought a lot anyway, is that clients who, because we used to, when I had my studio down in the Bay Area, there was a studio next to ours, or not too far from ours, that was pretty much a classical studio. And basically, they would do the typical reformer workouts of beginner, intermediate, advanced, kind of in traditional order every time. So a client would come in and they basically get the same workout, pretty much every time. Which was great. A lot of clients that worked really well for, but we always end up sharing clients, right? They'd kind of go back and forth between them and us. And when they came to us, a lot of times it was like they didn't know why they were doing things. Their mind wasn't engaged. It was, okay, push back, straighten your legs, push back. And they weren't given that other piece of like why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but what you're saying there is you physically, proprioceptively taught them the why.
Exactly.
Right, that I'm not just mindlessly like lifting my arm and my leg. I mean, dead bug can be pretty mindless if you're just like pretty mindless with it. Or it can be like, oh, I'm working this area, I'm working that area, I'm engaging this. And then what I found for us was that our clients would stay for years because they were getting educated, because they knew why they were coming. Like there was a purpose. And I think that's also just a really important thing about creating a foundation, is you help them understand what the skills are you're trying to build, how you're trying to build them, and that gets them engaged in the process.
Right. How many people have come to you and they already know how to do a bridge? But let's face it.
Millions. I mean, millions.
They don't know how to do a bridge properly. They can't do a bridge properly to save their life because they were taught by a doctor, a physical therapist, or something a long, long time ago, and it could have been taught correctly, but they've mutated it and made it their own over the years, whenever they've gotten on the ground to do it. And by the time he gets to us, it looks completely wacky. But to explain to someone, here, I want you to get your abdominals engaged when we're doing this. What? What do you mean? Say, yeah, your glute, it's for your glutes too, and your hamstrings and all of this. However, let's get your abdominals engaged. Let's do that. And you make these small modifications.
Yeah.
And you're right. You're explaining the why behind it. And when you explain the why, like, oh, wow. Yeah. I say, so guess what? The bridge can also be a core exercise if done properly, and should be. And they're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Cool. We are educators. I think you and I are naturally that way because we do it with our students all the time. So I can't help it when I'm with clients. I'm always educating them, because to me, it's kind of like if you own your own car and you know how to fix a bunch of the stuff on it. You feel more responsible for it. It makes you feel better. Well, this is my car. And
Mm.
for me, the more I can educate my client about their own body, it's like, look, you can take some responsibility for yourself. And that gives them a sense of, wow, I've learned something. I've accomplished something. So when they are doing an exercise at home, they know why. And I love it when they come in and say, I was teaching my husband this, and I was showing him
Yeah,
how they were doing it wrong for
exactly.
all these years. And I was like, well, I don't want y'all to get into a fight because of me. However, good for you.
Right. So we're talking about plank, we're talking about dead bug. Another thing that I sometimes do is bridge, because you talked about, making the
Yep.
bridge more interesting. And with my clients who are, at least think they're really proficient, I'll put their feet on a roller.
Oh yeah.
Just to kind of let them know, like, okay, this isn't a mindless bridge. You got to pay attention here. You're going to get a bad
Hmm.
hamstring cramp, or that roller's going to go shooting out from underneath you, right? So it's
Yep.
just like those little things that take an exercise they're familiar with, like you do a dead bug
Hmm.
or a plank, and just helping them become more aware of it, more
Absolutely.
engaged in it, and more aware of what's happening with it or not happening with it, right? Again, mindful more than mindless exercise.
100%. You said the right word, engaging. You want
Yeah.
engagement. You want the client
Yeah.
to be there not just because they're your friend, but they're actually doing exercise and doing it properly.
Yeah.
We can still talk, and I
Mhm.
I chit chat with everybody. That's part of our gig. But they got to be doing the exercise properly. They have to be
Yep.
doing it right, and they have to be focused. And sometimes I'm like, psh, psh, enough. Stop.
Exactly. Pay
Tell me about the
attention.
movie after this. Here we go. And they'll go, okay, got it. And you can see suddenly they have that focused look on their face. Okay, I'm
Yep.
focused now. And they do their reps, then they rest. Okay, now they can talk. And sometimes they can do the exercise and talk too. Some people are good at that, but a lot of people, they got to focus, and you just
Yeah.
got to shut that down a little bit,
Yep.
you know? And that's the way we sort of begin that and begin that
Yes.
process of
Yeah.
getting them engaged in how they feel, engaged, are they doing it properly? And I think that's something when you are creating a foundation with somebody, you really want them to be able to understand, okay, I'm doing these exercises as homework. I give homework to everybody, but I'm doing these exercises. Here's the reason why. Here's what we're focusing on. Okay. And what I tell everybody is I said, you want to get off the table, you want to stop doing these simple exercises, do your homework at home so you don't have to do it here. We can have fun then. You don't do it at home, I'm going to keep you here, and it's going to bore the heck out of you, and it's really going to bore me too. And sure enough, that usually will get them to cooperate. They say, fine, I'll do it at home. And then they come in, they're rocking it. I'm like, okay, I can see you've built up a strong foundation. Fantastic. We don't have to do toe taps anymore and dead bug. Right on. Let's move on, because that bores me too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And we can do all the fun stuff, and I can challenge you in many, many, many different ways. And get them off the table. And so finally they're, doing fun things until they tell me, can't we just lay down on the table again? Which I hear a lot.
I want to go back to not being able to do this work this hard.
Exactly. Exactly. So creating that foundation is vital. And if you're going to the gym, for those of you who are not fitness professionals who have stumbled upon us and like to listen to us talk about fitness and Pilates, if you're getting back to the gym, or let's face it, there's a lot of instructors out there who may not do what they need to do for their own bodies on a regular basis. So you may decide, I need to start getting into it. Or maybe you're a Pilates instructor who wants to get into fitness, or a fitness instructor who wants to get into Pilates. Fantastic. Creating that foundation is vitally important, because everything gets built upon that. You can't build a house on sand. You got to build it on a solid piece of foundation. It's the same theory.
And foundations can be like foundations can take a lot of different forms. We've talked a lot
Mhm.
about assessment and different things on this podcast. But one of the things that I'm one of the things I think I'm focused on now is there are certain functional skills that I want clients to be able to have. And they're
Mhm.
really pretty simple. I want them to be able to get down and up, whether it's
Yep.
in and out of a chair and out of their car. So some versions of squatting kind of thing, some versions of lunging kinds of things. I want
Mhm.
them to have enough upper body strength to do something like a plank, and ideally even a push-up. I want them to be able to lift something up safely. Let's say lift something off the floor and put it up overhead. I
Hmm.
want them to be able to rotate. So like there's a bunch of things in my head that are
Sure.
always part of, what foundation are we building and what skills are we trying to get for you? And then, you just grade it like, okay, well, you're at the very beginning of getting your legs to be straight. So we're going to start with footwork and in the reformer's land, footwork and feet and straps and things that just get your
Yep.
hips stronger and get three-dimensional strength around your legs so that knees aren't knocking and things like that.
Yep.
But what are the focuses? Like building that foundation is always really key.
100%. Understanding what you're looking for in your client is key, or in your own body.
Yeah.
I'm going to slightly change what I do. When I say slightly, I do mean slightly. If I have someone who's a golfer who wants to improve their golf game, but hasn't really exercised in 5 years, but plays golf regularly, okay, I may be looking at their body slightly differently than the grandfather who really doesn't care about golf or tennis or any of that, but does want to play with the grandkids and wants to go to the park and be able to, pick the grandchild up, and move around or do anything like that, or put them in and out of the car. Those are similar-ish skills from my standpoint. Okay, they need to be able to rotate. They've got to move through their hips. I'm going to be looking at certain things. But with my golfer, I may be fine-tuning other aspects of rotation.
Yes.
Whereas
Absolutely.
for the grandfather, it's like, okay, how much does the child weigh? Oh, okay, 15 kilos already. Got it. So we need to 30 some odd pounds. We need to make sure that you're able to put that in the car. You're able to take them out, that you're able to move through your hips properly to do that, that you're able to put them down, put it into the grocery cart, all of these things that we don't think about until we have to do it. And when
Yeah,
we have to do it, then
absolutely.
it's like, oh crap. I can't tell you how many people become grandparents for the first time and they think, oh my gosh, no wonder we have
This
kids
is
when we're young.
exhausting.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
I don't know how I'm going to do it. They want me to watch the baby for a whole weekend. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I'm like,
Right.
you're going to get through it. It's okay. And from my vantage point, it's like, okay, here's where our foundation needs to be. And here's what I'm going to be focusing on. And again, squats, deadlifts, things like that. And when I say deadlifts, it's just picking something up off the floor. I love things like sandbells or filling something up with rice. That's going to be a
Yeah.
little wiggly. That's going to be hard to grasp hold of, because guess what? The kid's going to be like that. It's going to be all floppy at times. And other times it's going to be this raging,
Yeah.
ball of fury. So you have to kind of, be able to pick up almost anything and be able to move it from one location to the other. So I will focus more on that. And again, it's building that as a foundation for their needs of what their goals are ultimately.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, for me, that's the fun part. Like when you really
Mm,
see, like, I know that I've made a difference in somebody's life. Number one, if, their pain is less, but even more when they're able to do more without discomfort, right? When they've
yeah,
got more endurance, when they could spend a weekend with their grandkids and not be super sore at the end of it, their back didn't hurt, their knees didn't hurt, whatever. Like then I know I've really made a difference. Or, I think one of my golfers, she improved her drive by 25 yards because she was a
yep,
total noodle and a little strength really helped. So like those are the things that are satisfying. Yes, it's
hmm,
great. And I say this specifically because for a lot of us as Pilates teachers, and I certainly have owned this myself, we often get micro focused on certain skills in the Pilates
hmm,
environment. And that's great, but those skills do not always directly translate to functional life, right?
absolutely,
Sometimes you're really training somebody to do something that, is great for them to do in the Pilates studio, but may or may not really serve them ultimately. And so, a lot of my goal
absolutely.
always is like, can I get those skills to the point where they're useful for that client?
Yes. I see that even in the fitness world.
Yeah.
To take someone who's 65 and to have them do a bench press where they're lying on their back, lifting a bar up. Okay, it's an exercise. It's going to give them upper body strength. Great. However, when in life are they going to be lying on the ground, lifting something up off of their chest? Whereas if I have them do something similar with a band or a tube in a standing position where they're still doing the same motion, but now they're basically engaging their body from their feet all the way through their shoulders and pressing their arm forward. That's a lot different. It's a totally different exercise. Or doing a modified push-up using, the Coraline ladder or the trap table or something, and having them do something that's like a modified push-up. That's an easier way to do it, because guess what? They're going to have to get up off the ground. So they're going to have to push on something at some time.
Mm-hmm.
So doing something like that is a lot more beneficial in my mind for that client than necessarily teaching them a bench press. I think you and I have discussed, the study about the two twin boxers who, one did bench press and one did cable presses. And at the end of the study, the person who did the cable press hit way harder than the person who did bench press, who, even though the bench press person was doing a lot more weight when you just looked at pure weight, because as soon as the glove touched touched the bag, basically is what they were pushing against, their body moved backwards.
Right.
They moved away from the target rather than the person who could really engage from the floor up and utilize their entire body strength through their arm. It becomes different. So for me, those goals become huge and will effectively change my programming on that, and think, I'm going to choose this instead, because for them, they need this more than the ego trip of being able to bench press 135 or whatever.
Right. So which the equivalent of that in the Pilates world, because it's related, right? If you're thinking about a bench press, the torso's essentially stabilized by the bench, right?
Exactly.
So the torso's not really needing to be involved in the process. Whereas if you're pushing something, like I'm picturing I used to have an old Volkswagen, which occasionally would die, and I would have to push it places. So it's a long time ago, but and I have to push it. And I could, because I could, but I had to use my whole body to do it. My arms are not going to do it. Right. I had to push from my feet off the ground and push it forward.
Yep.
And that's the actual functional strength. And in Pilates, there's a lot of things too, where on a positive side, I can regress them, so that, let's say in footwork, the torso is really stabilized, or can be, and they can just work their legs. But I can also then take that up into standing and really make it more a whole body exercise.
Right.
Doing arm work on the trap table or other kinds of variations on a theme. And that's one of the things that I'm always thinking, in my Pilates world, is I need to regress this to this point where this part's stabilized. They can just work this bit, but don't forget to then bring those bits together. Right. And find a more functional movement that brings all of those pieces to bear. Because that's where I find things break down a lot, is in the integration piece.
Yes, 100%. And I think you said it, functional movement. Teaching functional movement is probably way more important, in my opinion, for a newbie instructor to teach a brand new client coming in off the street than here's how to use the equipment. Because if I can get them to be able to get up off the floor, lunge, squat, do simple pulling and pushing and rotation, and doing all of that to start with, you can always add load later. You can always adjust load very easily, and they don't need to use this big fancy equipment. It's just people join a gym and I want to use the equipment. But what's going to help them in life a lot more is using their body through space more. And I'm not talking about necessarily using a suspension trainer or doing body weight exercises. I'm just talking about functional movement, finding those functional movement patterns and loading those, because those are much more beneficial for people in the end.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where the foundation gets built. If somebody can do basic functional exercises, then you can always build on top of that. If every time, and the classic one for me is, we'll just take a squat or footwork on the reformer, similar thing. What's their alignment like on that? Do the hips, knees, and ankles stay in line if they're in a parallel position? Or do their knees knock? Do their knees go wide? Do they roll up the outside of their feet? Do they roll up on the inside of their ankles? If they roll up onto a heel lift or releve, do they stay centered or not? Like those fundamental things mean that if they can't do that in that environment where I'm, watching them in a squat or I'm watching them do footwork, then they're not doing that when they're doing ordinary activities all the way around the house, right? Or all the way around their life. And if they're not doing it there, then they're putting stress on the knees or the ankles or the hips or the back or whatever else they're putting stress on. And that's where I go back again. Okay, how am I going to build this foundation so that it will, again, ideally put less stress on the rest of the body?
Yeah. And if you think about it, if they're working out 3 times a week for an hour, well, that's 3 hours of 168 hours a week. I think I got the math right there. So, but those 3 hours of proper training and engagement properly can assist in every other hour, whatever they're doing in their regular daily life, getting in and out of the car, getting up and down off the toilet or out of a chair or wherever. It can be beneficial because let's face it, that's where we get injured more often than not in general life is in the garden or doing something where our alignment may not be proper. But if we can teach those patterns and that functional movement correctly and get them focused on it in what we're doing, it can hopefully make them a little bit more focused when they're doing things outside of it. But it's also going to strengthen them. So hopefully they're doing the motion correctly when they're not even thinking about it. It becomes that unconscious movement that we've talked about.
Right. And getting back to where we started here is it's like part of the reason, and you've said this, and I've certainly experienced it, that we see the injuries happen like around, in your case, mid-February. I mean, it's various different times of the year. One of the greatest boons to a lot of my Pilates studios was CrossFit.
Oh, yeah.
Because a client would, they'd be going to Pilates, they wouldn't think it was enough, which I totally get. I understand that they wanted more, they wanted more intensity. So they go to some kind of a CrossFit scenario, which again, may or may not be taught well, because that's the Wild West out there in terms of what's being taught and how it's being taught. And so many of them, 2.5 to 3 months later, they'd come in with torn up shoulders. Like I could just count on it. It's like,
shoulders.
She's starting CrossFit in January. I'm going to see her mid-February, maybe March. And again, a lot of this is because most of my clients are women, and they would just start having them do 20 push-ups to the floor from day one.
Or overhead presses.
When I know like they are not doing it correctly because they can barely do a plank. So then you add the stress and the excitement and the endorphin of, oh, they're making me do this. Okay. Oh, it hurts really bad, but that's okay. I'm getting stronger. And then they tear things up.
I can't tell you how many people I've gotten from CrossFit.
Yeah.
CrossFit and body camp or boot camp sort of things where people are using their own body weight. And again, it's great. And I can see the benefit with those things because, forgive the term, but there's a cultish mentality because there's a social aspect. People love
you get pushed
to be part of that. And you do get pushed, and everyone's getting pushed at the same time, and you're all seeing each other get stronger and things. So there's that aspect of it, which is why certain things like Soul Cycle and, some reformer classes and things do so well, is because there is the social aspect as well. However, when you're pushing your body beyond what it's capable of, or what it may not be wanting to do, period, there are certain exercises that I know not to do because my shoulders can't take it. Overhead presses are one of them. Every time I've tried in the past, I have ended up with rotator cuff issues. Okay. I'm not built for that. I can do a lot of other things. For whatever reason, that's never been a strong suit of mine. So guess what? It's okay. I've had a lot of clients whose doctors will tell them, do not lift anything over 2 pounds over your head, because they've got neck issues or they got upper back issues or they're kyphotic or there's something in the way that's going to lead them to issues. But guess what? They join those classes and they start doing all of this stuff, and they do it improperly because, depending on the instructor, a lot of them are told, just get the number of reps. Don't worry, just do the number of reps.
Yep, exactly.
Well, again, that can be a negative. Now, not every instructor is like that. There are some great instructors out there. I've met a lot of bad ones.
Yep.
And, it may have worked for their bodies. It's like we know great yogis. We also know a whole lot of terrible yoga instructors who force people to do postures that may not be ready, their bodies may not be ready for, and it ends up hurting them. And it goes that way in fitness and Pilates and everything. There's good and bad. But For us, we really want to take a look at what can the client do? What can they do safely? That's why that assessment piece is so important. What can they do? Let's have them start off with this much. And I'll tell people, today's going to feel easy. I want it to. We're going to build on this. If today feels way, way, way too hard, we've done way more than we should. I want this to be a little challenging, maybe even just mentally, but I want it to be physically like, okay, I got this. I feel comfortable. Okay. And then the next session, we'll do a little bit more. And the next session, we'll do a little bit more. And guess what? 6 months from now, you've made humongous gains, tremendous gains, but you're not going to make them in the next 3 weeks. It's going to take time.
Which is always the hard part, right?
It
Not
is.
everybody wants to take the time. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's something else in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
One other thing that I often think about is when you're trying to make progress, and this is something that statistically they've worked on forever, people that stay consistent in the gym, they always say, and this is a little bit of a random number, but they say they give 80%.
Yeah.
They don't give 100%. And I'm sure there are days when they give 100% because they're just super excited about something, or they're on fire for some reason. But basically, slow and steady wins the race.
Yep.
Again, just going harder, faster, longer is not necessarily going to make the gains you want to make. The gains you want to make come from steady, consistent, slow progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
Horrifying to say and horrifying to experience for most clients because they all want something to happen in like a week and a half. But that's the truth. That's the truth with the body. It takes time.
And it's that way with us as well.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I wanted to work out, and it had been a little bit since I'd worked out, as regularly as I would like. I do a lot of cardio, but I said, okay, I'm going to do some weights. But I also knew I had 20 minutes only. I had done my cardio and I had 20 minutes. Now I could have blasted my body. I was like, no, I'm going to pick 5 exercises.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pick a weight that I know I can do 15 to 20 repetitions of. I'm going to focus on form. I'm going to focus on range of motion. I want to feel good after this. And at the end of it, I was like, yeah, that feels good. I had a little bit of a muscle pump. I was like, okay, I feel good. Okay, good. That's enough for today. Guess what? Today, I'm not sore.
Right.
I was a little nervous. I was like, well, it's been, a couple of weeks since I've done this. It might be a little bit, and some of the exercises I hadn't done for a little while, but I was like, no, I feel great. And again, start off small. So the next time I do that, I can do more, either more time, more repetition, more set, whatever it is, but I can build upon that. Start with what you know you can do and move on from there. When you're working with clients, it's the same thing. Start with what's achievable and what they're going to be comfortable with. Make small progressions from there. Challenge them. Don't get me wrong. You want to challenge them, but you don't want to floor them either. I don't want them to be so sore that they're not going to be able to walk this week. You
want to create success. And in the Pilates environment, we don't always get a lot of soreness just because of the way the equipment works and the way that many exercises are kind of whole bodied. So force isn't always, kind of focused in one particular area. But again, it's that feeling of like, has everything moved? Is that achiness in my back gone? Is that shoulder thing feeling better? Do I feel a bit taller? What are the things that make you feel a bit better? Am I more comfortable driving for, my 16-hour commute or whatever it is?
Yep. Yeah. So be gentle to your body and be gentle to your clients. I think that's where we're coming from today. Is we all want to start off and just, get this. Take it easy. Take it easy. You don't have to accomplish it today. You don't even have to accomplish it in a week. We really would love it. And gyms hate this notion, by the way. Gyms love the people who pay lots of money every year and never show up. They love those people. If everybody who had a gym membership showed up on a Saturday, guess what? There'd be no parking. No one could even walk in the door.
Exactly.
So they love people who disappear. We want to create that client who's going to keep coming back, who's going to want to come back, who sees success, who feels like, this is where I belong. This is what I want to do. And who feels
understands why they're there. right? But
Yeah,
it feels part of this community, but also understands why they're there.
absolutely. Absolutely. So that's really what we want to create. And if we've done our job right, hopefully we've done that. And it's what keeps clients coming back. I've joked I've got a number of clients who are looking for regular time slots, and I've got a long list of them. And I keep saying, but nobody's quit. And they say, well, when's the last person who's quit? I said, 4 years ago. And they go, what? I said, yeah, because if you keep them being successful, they keep coming back. And that's why I have a staff, and I like to, new people go to them, but people want to see me as well. So if they're seeing success, there's no reason for them to want to go anywhere else.
That's always been that's always been my take. I mean, again, the studio down the street that did the kind of classes that they did, the group stuff that they did, always had Groupons going, always had advertisements going. We had a waiting list from the first 6 months we were open,
Yeah.
and that never changed. That never changed. And I
Yep.
had clients who I saw for 16 years, which was ridiculous, but like just really literally forever.
Mm-hmm.
And once it works, they're like, this works for me. This is my maintenance. This is my
Yep.
fitness routine. This is what's going to keep me going, and really allows that resilience and that adaptability through time. And that really is
Mm-hmm.
ultimately what keeps people coming.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, hopefully we gave you some ideas and some thoughts for yourself as well as the clients that come in to see you, and a little jump start for the new year. Like I say, we talked about the deeper dive of what we want to accomplish with ourselves physically, but more, I think, on almost want to say a metaphysical level, more of a deeper level than just I want stronger biceps or, that sort of thing, or a better golf game. But now it is, okay, you're in the gym. What do we need to do? And for the client that's coming in to see you for the first time and they're a little intimidated, you don't want to hurt them. You want them to keep coming back. So hopefully we've given you a few helpful tidbits.
Indeed, indeed, a
Oh,
little some food for thought for the new year.
exactly, exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. You can always reach out to us. We will respond in every way that you reach out, whether on email on movingcombos@gmail.com, through Instagram, Moving Combos. Those are the easiest ways to get in touch with us. Do hit that like and subscribe button. We really appreciate it every time you do. It really helps us out. So please do. And for Nora St. John, I'm Brian Ritchie. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye, guys.